Welcome back. Now, much of the country's railway system has been left disseminated by thieves and vandals. Now, government has a plan to fix the problem. It's released the National Rail Policy White Paper. For more on this story, I'm joined by Deputy Director General for Rail, Ngwako Makaepea. Thank you very much for your time, sir, here on All Angles. First of all, tell us what is contained in this white paper that would make things better or actually eradicate the problem.
Thank you very much to the viewers. The Department of Transport has launched the white paper on national rail policy, which is a very critical milestone that we are celebrating today. Because if you are very aware, is that for almost more than a century, the rail sector has been operating without a comprehensive national rail policy, which then necessitated that the policy vacuum has really not directed it very well. I mean, key to explain about the policy thrust is that it talks about rail sector investment that is very geared towards strategic corridors of the country, which are very critical and are very critical for the economy of this country, and which are those corridors that are going to help government in solving major critical elements such as your movement from road to rail, and the road carnages that you are having on the road and the damages itself, because if you therefore are able to move the road-friendly cargo from road to rail, you will have achieved that particular element. And how do we then do that? As a policy department, we set up the framework, and Transnet becomes one of the implementers in the freight industry. And they'll be working very closely with the private sector, where for the first time now, private sector will be able to access the main rail network. So gone are those days where you'll have a mine operator only moving his commodities from the mine to the area of consolidation, but they can take it directly to the area of port. And that's the kind of the critical intervention that the policy have done in putting together the rail regulatory framework.
In terms of vandalism and people stealing cables, etc., which contributes to the problems in the rail agency, how much have we lost? If you could just share that with us, please, DDG. How much have we lost as a country, maybe in the past year, due to cable theft?
I mean, for me, we have really been worstly affected in terms of the cable theft itself. And we know what were the reasons why we came to this point. I might not be able to have the exact numbers of what we have lost in terms of that, because there's much left from the stolen from the Prasa side, and secondly on the Transnet side. But what I can say is that, I mean, the impact of that loss in terms of cables is really affecting on how we are running the corridors. Hence, we're able to close some of these corridors so that we are able to rebuild them moving from very far. But there is a comprehensive strategy that we are dealing with as a Department of Transport as part of the policy to then say, as the Department of Transport, in line with this policy, how do we then make sure that the rail assets are determined as national key points in line with the Critical Infrastructure Act? So like you'll see at airports where you then see police. So some of these critical infrastructure are going to be classified in that particular element to ensure that we are able to guard them and guard them for the interest of the country as key strategic corridors for the country.
Is there an element of an inside job? I mean, for people to be able to steal so much. I mean, we read an article here on eNCA about somebody who suggests that the cable theft syndicate actually even has schools for some of the criminals, that they basically teach where to find the cables, etc. For them to be able to do that and to be able to listen in on court cases, etc., it has to be that someone within the agency or even within the department is probably assisting, right? Is there an element of an inside job here?
The Department of Transport becomes a policy-setting department, which then set up the policy framework. And then our state-owned enterprises implement. Yes, I don't know the details of the report, but I can confirm that there have been cases where, when we have done raids as the department, together with the Prasa security and with the leadership of Minister Mbalula, where some of the Prasa employees who have been implicated in this particular element. But I think for me, the problem is bigger than the employees of the Prasa, because where we need to get to the gist of this element is who are the real people and where does this issue of the metal goes to. So there is, yes, some inside job, but what we are doing as the Department of Transport leading Prasa, we are working with the security cluster and in terms of looking at that particular work, in terms of really where are the key areas, and we are collaborating together with ESCOM and Transnet, because we are hit in one particular area to be able to deal with those. And the Department of Transport will be leading the transport security sector, which really focuses on the rail particular element to be able to deal with those particular issues. So it's a matter close to our heart, because we understand the impact. And the Department of Trade and Industry is working with all government departments to be able to do looking at this issue of what are the critical elements that we must consider as the country, how big is the sector itself. And I think one of those proposals on the table that is being looked at is how do we then ban the export of this particular metal. But with us implementing new initiatives in Prasa within the corridors, some of the cable that we are putting, we are really limiting a lot of copper cables in that particular element, so that even if the thieves were to attack us, it then becomes useless. So those are really key strategies that we are putting together to deal with this particular challenge.
And what are we doing in terms of dealing with the rot? I know you said that it's not a bigger problem to find that there's Prasa employees also implicated. I disagree, because those are the people who are supposed to help government protect this infrastructure. So in terms of dealing with the rot there, exactly what is being done with those employees?
So with regard to Prasa, what we have done, like I said, there have been pockets of where we have found employees being involved in this particular element. And as government, we have launched, together with Prasa, the integrated security plan, which one, it's highly focused that it deals with both your human elements, systems themselves, and then the physical security. So what we are dealing with in Prasa, working together with the department, that we are involved with a serious vetting of those who are employed in critical security areas. You'll know that in dealing with that, you obviously ensure that you hire the right people who doesn't have criminal records, who are properly vetted, who are even compliant with the serial requirements in terms of security. So those are some of the initiatives that we are dealing with. And secondly,
are there people, sorry, before I forget my question, DDG, are there people who work at Prasa who do have criminal records, where the vetting didn't actually show you that you shouldn't, show Prasa that they shouldn't employ that particular person?
Prasa is busy with that process. In terms of that, we haven't actually received the actual report. We have promised that as part of what they are cleaning up, including that and the operations division, they'll formally submit that particular report to the department. And as we have done, after we receive that report, we can be able to inform the South African around the details on that particular matter.
I want to go back to the, the issue about the outright banning of, the trade of copper, etc., for money. Are you in support of something like that? If South Africa could have a law that would ban that, maybe that could also assist, or are you also a part of the people who believe that this will not assist?
As the Department of Transport, we believe that that's very critical, because we have seen how it has affected it. And even our Minister of Transport, in the statement on the release of the policy, said as the Department of Transport, we support that, and in line with the recommendation of the study that the Department of Trade and Industry is doing and leading us on behalf of government, because we believe it is a lucrative industry that is really destroying the train services in the country, that is destroying, because in some of these areas where we run services, even the stations are dependent on the ESCOM network, which is sometimes some of those substations are vandalized, and it affects us as government in how we run our services. And we won't be very shy to support those kind of initiatives, so that those who are really dealing with it from the back, obviously with the advice of the security cluster, we're able to get to the bottom of that.
DDG, just very quickly, I don't know how long you've been with the department. What is taking so long in sorting out the issue of the rot within Prasa, Transnet, etc.? I don't know if you'd be able to tell us exactly what the department has done, because things seem to be getting worse and not better.
Maybe what rot are you talking about specifically, so that we can be able to comment to that?
Well, in terms of what you're saying and what you said earlier about people, for instance, being found wanting when it comes to cases of copper theft, etc., some of the corruption that has happened within those state-owned entities.
I mean, the board, that current board that has been appointed by the minister, has gone in very large details in really making sure that they really clean up at Prasa. Considering that they report to the Ministry of Transport, we have had cases in Prasa where, since this board took over, they were able to put some people on suspension. The SIU has been brought in to do some investigation into Prasa. A report in that particular regard has been submitted to the board, and the board has really taken action with management, wherein those people who were involved in those particular issues in terms of rot. Some are currently on suspension as we talk, both at all levels, and some of those are even at junior level. And some, because now the board is biting in terms of real accountability, they have resigned in terms of leaving the organization Prasa, and the board will have to take necessary action following the law enforcement of efforts in order to follow them and make sure that those particular people are really brought to book in terms of the loss that we have had in the company, because that's very unacceptable. It's the money of government, these are taxpayers' money, and we must seriously look up to that money.
All right. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us here on All Angles. That's Rail Deputy Director General Ngwako Makaepea, who was speaking to us there about the problems we have in our rail agency. Let's take